So I'm going to start this video off a little bit differently. I'm going to read you a quote from an article that I wrote, and I feel like not only is it relevant to the video, but it's something that has meant a lot to me in the last year. Don't let the expectations and opinions of other people affect your decisions. It's your life, not theirs. Do what matters most to you. Do what makes you feel alive and happy. Don't let the expectations and ideas of others limit who you are. If you let others tell you who you are living their reality and not yours. There is more to life than pleasing people. There is much more to life than following others' prescribed paths. There is so much more to life than what you experience right now. You need to decide who you are for yourself. Become a whole being, adventure. Honestly, that gives me goosebumps because I feel like the last year and a half of my life has been about trying to break free of being a people pleaser and living for others and doing what I feel is right only for others, and trying to pour into my own cup, follow my own path, and become a yes person, and I suppose in a way be selfish, but in the best way. And so really that's why I wanted to sit down and have a chat to you guys about some of the things that have really helped me on that path, because I know I'm not alone in feeling like I have to live a prescribed life or feeling guilty or bad if I don't tick those check boxes that society expects. And trust me, I really haven't done that. You know, I don't own a house, I haven't followed a traditional career path, I didn't complete my A-levels, I moved to Australia when I was 18 and just never came home. I don't have a structured set out path in front of me, and that always has caused such a bone of contention to myself. I've always felt inherently guilty about that and really struggled with it. And for the most part of my life, I resisted how I felt and just tried to please everyone around me and be the best person I could be for them. But ultimately I realized I was just never happy. And it was only last year when I set a New Year's resolution to be a yes person, to travel, to pour into my own cup, to do the things that I love, no matter whether I had to do them alone or whether I could find someone to do them with me. And I started doing that, and the more I've done it, the easier it's become, and I have realized how important it is, because ultimately life is too short. And I've said this in a lot of my videos, but life really is too short. And I feel like now I've done it for a year and a half, it is becoming easier, and I've started to find a good balance between what is good for me and still being able to ease that people pleaser in me, because that's just never going to go away. So in this video, I'm definitely going to share some of the tips and some of the things that have really helped me. But I think a good way to start is just to explain how my mentality has always been. I feel like as long as I can remember, I have always, without a doubt, prioritized those around me. I have wanted more than anything else for everyone to be satisfied and happy, no matter how that would affect me. That was just my modus operandi. I couldn't bear anything else. And it's so inherent in me. Like, I don't think this is a choice. It was almost like a necessity. Now, while prioritizing and thinking of others is not inherently a bad thing at all, it can become, over time, really toxic and trapping. Constantly feel like you're leading a life for others and looking for validation, but you never quite get that validation. And therefore, all that leads to is you trying harder, and it just becomes this constant vicious cycle of self-doubt and foregoing things that genuinely feel good for you or that you might want to do in pursuit of something that probably is never going to actually occur or happen. Now, I don't want this video to be negative in any way. I want you to go away feeling empowered and excited about being able to take your life into your own hands, feel okay with doing things that make you happy, but also being able to be there and be the best person you can be for others around you. Because ultimately, if you're living the life that you want to lead and you're pouring into your own cup, you are going to show up as a better person for everyone in your life. And I hope by sharing my own experience in trying to work out what is going to make me happy, and I feel like that's the easy bit, and actually then going out and doing it, and that's the difficult bit, I can share that with you, and you will feel that it's possible for you too, to follow those crazy dreams, to be a yes person, to try things even though you don't think you're capable of doing them, and just genuinely live the best that you can, because again, life is just far too short to be doing otherwise. And before I sort of get into the things that have really helped me, I just want to preface this with, this is very much a work in progress for me. I am working so hard in the background, and I have spoken a little bit about this, and you've probably noticed it over the last year if you watch my videos or if you follow me on Instagram, and you can sort of see these ups and downs and these fluctuations. But I feel like the work that I've put in is starting to show, and I'm starting to feel a little bit more confident and at a point where I can talk about my experience, and again, like I say, hopefully just inspire someone or just help you feel that you're not alone in feeling the way that you do. I do definitely feel this constant tug of war between wanting to please others and live a life for others and wanting to do things that make me happy. And what I'm trying to do is land perfectly in the middle where I can sort of slide either way and satisfy both. But one thing that I always come back to, and I say this so much to my clients and to my friends and to my family, and that is that you must fit your own oxygen mask before you help others. So if you are pouring from an empty cup, if you're depleted, if you're not feeling satisfied, you aren't going to be able to show up for those that need you or that you want to show up for in the best way possible. And ultimately it's that keeps pulling me back to working on this and trying to find some type of balance rather than just going back to my default. So I've narrowed it down to the 6 things that I found have really helped me. And the first one is just simply realizing that self-care is not selfish. Practicing getting comfortable with being selfish. And I put the word selfish in quotation marks because us people pleasers tend to think of being selfish as a bad thing, where realistically for most people it's just self-care, and that is not bad. In fact, it's necessary and it's important. And surprise, surprise, as with most things, the more you practice it, the easier it becomes. I think it's important to distinguish here that self-care comes in so many different forms. It can be as simple as watching your favorite TV show for 5 minutes with a cup of tea, or taking yourself on some bougie holiday, or for a hike somewhere that you've always wanted to do. The range of what self-care can be is extensive. But regardless of what self-care is for you, it can be so hard to start putting into your day if you're not used to this whole self-care train. To start with, you simply just need to accept that self-care is not selfish. Having time to yourself or doing things that are only for you is not a bad thing. In fact, it's important. And it's almost like setting yourself some homework and saying, today or this week, I'm gonna put aside this amount of time, or I'm gonna do something, whatever it might be, insert whatever is your hobby or what you think you might enjoy, which is solely for me and to pour into my own cup or to give me energy or just to fulfill me. Okay, so next up is be careful whose advice that you buy. Now, one of my favorite songs, if you've watched me before, I've probably mentioned it a few times, is Everyone's Free to Wear Sunscreen by Baz Luhrmann. And one of the lines in that song says, be careful whose advice you buy, but be patient with those who supply it. And that is the perfect summation of this point. Now, we all know what it's like to have the naysayers in our lives, the ones who are the negative Nancys, and they not necessarily purposefully are trying to bring you down, but when you say that you want to do something, or you talk about your dreams or some crazy idea that you have, they immediately come back at you with a negative response or bringing it down or pissing on your parade a little bit. And so this is not about saying yay or nay to who you can have at your table and blocking people out completely, but it's more about being aware of who adds to your life, who are the people that inspire you, who build you up, who back you, and trying to spend as much time around those people or with those people as you can versus the people that maybe do the opposite. I will give you an example from my experience in the last couple of years. So I have a huge passion for the outdoors and traveling and adventure and learning new skills and having new hobbies. However, that type of passion comes with being away a lot, traveling, moving, spending money on going on trips. It takes up a lot more time and energy than, say, taking on a new class in your local area, for example. And so I've resisted that for such a long time. I just didn't do it. But one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about doing those things is because partly my job, I want to be able to inspire other people who, like me, weren't born into being outdoors, hiking, being active, being sporty, taking on new hobbies, and show them that it's possible regardless of your background, regardless of your experience, your fitness level, your age, anything like that. I want to ignite that passion in others and show them that they can do it. So I always felt like pursuing these passions was selfish or wrong, but also this conflict in me was constantly there of, well, I want to do it, and also I feel like it can help other people. And to put it in perspective, I remember after starting my business, I think it was about 2 years in, I booked my first holiday away and I said I wasn't gonna do any work. And I remember sitting in my hotel room crying my eyes out because I wasn't working and feeling so guilty about doing that. And that's just one small example. In the bigger picture, I have always had this looming feeling of just guilt and awkwardness that I haven't followed the social norms. I'm not married with children, I don't own a home, I haven't followed a normal career path, and all those things have not always sat with me well. However, I've really made an effort in the last year and a half to surround myself or bring people into my life and have friends who are like me. They're unapologetically just following their passions. They're good people who are trying to help others, who want to live their life the most that they can, and it has just made the most immeasurable difference. And I feel like there's people sitting there going, how do you make friends like this? Because I know that's a question that comes up a lot, is when you're in your 30s or you're an adult, it's quite hard to make friends, especially if you move around like I do a lot. And how do you make those friends? To be honest with you, a lot of them I've made through Instagram. It's as simple as I enjoy their content, they might have similar hobbies to me, and we just start talking, eventually we meet up, and a lot of my really close friends I have met through social media. So although social media can have lots of negatives, that's one huge positive, but then also as soon as you meet one, you end up meeting another through just networking and through meeting people mutually, and that's another amazing way of making new friends and finding people that are your type of people. So again, this point is not about cutting people out of your life. Maybe naturally you'll drift away from people if you change a little bit, but this is more about choosing carefully where you put your energy and who you spend your time with, and trying to prioritize those people that you are going to be inspired by or who back you and to give you that energy to keep going and to do what you want to do. All right, number 3 is play out the narrative. I've always had 2 fallbacks that have really helped me when I have some serious self-doubt. I'll talk about the other one in a little bit. This one actually came from my amazing psychologist that I used to go and see for therapy in Australia. And essentially what playing out the narrative is asking yourself, then what? Now it sounds very simple, and it is. Essentially, what will happen is you're gonna start thinking about prioritizing yourself or things that maybe are a little bit out of the norm for you. I want to go and start a business. I want to go back to university and change my career. I want to start a family, whatever it might be. And you start to panic, you start to freak yourself out. And this is the point where you ask yourself, then what? This is a way to nip catastrophizing in the bud. And if there's someone who can catastrophize, you're looking at her. I could catastrophize literally any situation and think of the worst possible outcomes. But when you use the then what tool, you realize that nothing that bad is ever going to really happen. So when you get those little seeds of doubt that come into your mind when you're trying to act on self-care or be a little bit more selfish or do something that's gonna fill your cup, and you start to catastrophize about it and you start to freak yourself out, ask yourself then what will happen at every little scenario or roadblock that you can see happening. And ultimately you'll begin to realize that nothing ever really that bad is gonna happen, so you may as well just go for it. On that note, number 4 is trying scary things. If we are trying to find the most fulfilled, content, happy version of ourselves, surely we need to go out there and actually try a load of different things and see what we enjoy. Now obviously if you start trying lots of different hobbies or doing lots of different things, you're likely to come across some things that just don't work, some absolute duds, and that is totally okay, because then you can just cross them off your list and say, no, that is not for me. But the chances are you'll also find stuff that you enjoy. The issue is that you will never find these things if you just don't go out and try them in the first place. So be that yes person, back yourself, meet new people, push your boundaries, because you never know what you might find. And if you're really struggling with self-confidence or doing things alone, again, practice makes it easier. The more you do something, the easier it becomes. And until then, you can just fake it until you make it. Act confident, no one will question you, just back yourself. I promise you, if I can do it, you guys can do it. And over time, it will get easier. Who knows, you may even start to enjoy it. Okie dokie. Number 5 is you are not who you think you are. Now, in my experience, I think this is the one that still I find the most challenging. And that is because, as with a lot of people, I struggle with imposter syndrome. And naturally, I have always struggled with my identity because I grew up and lived as one person my entire life. And now people that meet me or watch my videos or that I know in my life, they know me as a different person to how I perceive myself. I've talked about this in previous videos, but these things have really come from having significant weight loss, completely changing my career, not having a background in health and fitness, but now I work in health and fitness, my preconceived ideas of who I am versus who I think I am now. It's all a bit of a muddle, it's a little bit of a mess, and there's good days and there is definitely still very many bad days too. But this is exactly why we need to do it. It is challenging for a reason. So finding yourself and following your passions is something that is really worthwhile doing. By challenging these thoughts and these limiting beliefs, that is how you're going to truly find out what makes you tick and who you really are as a person, and then you can pursue that. You might not think that you fit into the outdoors, or you might not think that you're academic enough to study at university or experienced enough to apply for that job you've always wanted to apply for. But until you try and you push yourself out of that comfort zone and you challenge those limiting beliefs, you're never going to be that person. The truth is, you can be literally anything that you want to be, and you can change that as many times as you want throughout your life, because there's no one keeping tabs on it. And for my final tip, and the one thing that is my absolute fail-safe, when all else fails, just JFDI. I've mentioned this in a couple of videos, and this goes across so many different areas of your life, but when all else fails and you really don't know what else to do, just friggin' do it. This is the point where you have to shut your brain off, because it will constantly play tricks on you. You have to grit your teeth and just friggin' get stuck in and do it, and just say to yourself, I don't care. I'm not going to talk about it. We'll talk about this later, brain. I'm just going to focus on getting it done. It's kind of that fake it till you make it mentality. After all, we've already played the then what game. What is the worst that's really going to happen? I won't hesitate to say that the pros will probably outweigh the cons. So folks, that is it. I hope that this has helped in some way. Obviously, like I said, I'm very much still on this journey from bona fide people pleaser to being able to somewhat carve out my own passions and actually pursue them. Again, that's the hard bit. But as with anything, like I mentioned, it gets easier the more you practice it, and you start to realize the benefits of doing so and why it's really, really worthwhile. I think at the end of all of this, it's so important to reflect on the fact that you're a long time dead. Life is just far too short. And it's all about balance. You know, this is not about becoming completely selfish and screwing over everyone in your life. This is about making sure that you're just as much of a priority as everybody else. So that being said, I'm going to stop talking now and let you go on and live your day. My challenge to you is to go out there and do something for you today that's new, that's scary, that's exciting, whatever it might be. Go and challenge yourself, and feel free to let me know down below what you go and do, because I would love to hear it. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!